Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudayata. So is Tanmay there?
Yes, Babaji, I'm here.
Okay, so your question about this Agrihan Pratiyata. So this is called Paryudas. So Paryudas is a type of samas called Naya samas, and as I was explaining, pradhanatvam vidheryatra pratisedha pradhanata paryudasya vigya yatra uttar padena naya. So in Agrihan, the naya applies to griha, uttar padena naya. And the importance here is not of pratishedha or negation, but of action. And that's how the samas is made, Agrihan. So there is an example that Dwadasyam Tulsim na chuniyat, that on Dwadasi do not pick Tulsi. So in this statement it looks like a negation, that the statement is telling you don't pick Tulsi, but actually the statement is not saying not to pick Tulsi, but rather the meaning of the statement is that you pick Tulsi except on Dwadasi. So although from the statement it appears that one should not pick Tulsi and that's all, but the thing is that one should pick Tulsi except on Dwadasi. That is the meaning of Paryudas. So therefore Agrihan Pratiyata, the meaning is that go wherever you want to go, but don't go home. So because the Pratishedha is not important, that not going is not important, but not going home is to be avoided. That's Agrihan Pratiyata. That's what it means.
Thank you, Baba.
Okay, Jankiram.
Sorry, Babaji, was that related to the reading today, or is that just a general
No, that
point?
was yesterday's, some question
Okay.
came from yesterday's class. So we were doing this Purpaksha made by Advaita Vedanti, or not made, but Vaishnavas, they made Purpaksha, right, about the Vedas, because according to them Veda is applicable only as long as one is in the Vyavaharik platform, and there is no Veda at the Paramarthik platform. So that's what we read. Vedasya prakrit pratyakshadivat avidyavat avishya matratvena yavadeva avidya tavadeva tadvyavara. So as long as one is under the influence of avidya, only that long Veda has its application. But once one has become free from avidya, then Veda does not have application for that. So he said, iti na mantavyam, this should not be accepted like this. Why? Because Veda is aparushyatvat nityatvat. Veda is aparushaya and it is nitya. So the nitya, of course, that is what they have been trying to prove in aparushaya, and they give it so that they will say, well, we also accept that. But what they do not accept is that it is not nitya at the Paramarthik or the absolute platform. So therefore it says Sarva mukti eka kala bhavena tad adhikarinam santata astitvat. So it says, suppose there are people who have followed the path of Gyan Marg, because Advaitavadis are Gyan Margi, and someone becomes a Jivan Mukta. So when one becomes Jivan Mukta, that person is not Videha Mukta, that person is still living in the present body, and has not become liberated. So therefore he is not in avidya anymore. And if he is not in avidya anymore, then there should be no more Veda available to him. Because he says Vedak Vyavahar is only as long as one is under the influence of avidya. But he says that they also have the adhikar over this. They can also recite Veda and they will still continue to follow the Veda. So tad adhikarinam santata astitvat. And the Veda is still existing for them also. So therefore it is wrong to say that Veda is existing only as long as there is Vyavahar, which is under the influence of avidya. And then he gives next logic. Parmeshwar prasadena Parmeshwar vadeva avidyatita nam Chit Shakti ek vibhava nam Atma Ramanam Parshada Namapi Brahmananda Uparichar Bhakti Parmanandena Samadhi Parayana There Darshishyamanaprat. That those people who have become liberated, or those who are eternally liberated and who are in the association of Parameshwara, Parshada, the Atma Ramas, who are satisfied in their self, and Chit Shakti Ek Vibhavanam, whose wealth is Chit Shakti, means they are not under the influence of this avidya. So according to Advaitvadis, anyone who is not under the influence of avidya, he dies, he is Brahman. But in the Vaishnava philosophy that's not true. They are in Vaikuntha. So they have become free from avidya by the grace of Parameshwar, and they are like Parameshwar only as far as becoming freedom from avidya. So Parameshwar prasadena Parameshwar vadeva avadyatitanam. So whether they are sadhak siddhas or nitya siddhas, both of them are free from avidya. And Brahmanand Uparichar Bhakti Parmanandin, and they are in bliss, or they are having the experience of supreme bliss by bhakti, which is beyond the Brahmananda or bliss of Brahman realization. And it is seen that they also do samgan. They also recite the Sam mantras. So even in Vaikuntha, there is chanting of Sam mantras. So therefore it is not true that this is only when there is influence of avidya. So that's what has been refuted. So there are statements in the Upanishad where it is said that Mukta people also Athaya tad evam vidwan sam gayati. So vidwan means those who have become liberated, they also sing Sam mantra. Etat Sam gayanaste. So this is in Tatriya Upanishad. So there are many statements like this, that they also sing Sam. So Srimad Parmeshwarasya Svaved Maryadam Avlambhyeva Muhu Srishtyadi Pravartakatvatcha. And Parameshwar or Paramatma, he also creates the world by following the principles of the Vedas. So that means Veda is existing before the creation. And he is the one who gives the Vedic knowledge to Brahma. So that is before creation is done, so there is no avidya. So in this way, the Advaita Mat, the opinion of Advaitvada is not accepted. So yesham tu purusha jnana kalpitam eva vedadikam sarvam dvaitam tesham aparushayatva abhavat tateva brahmadi sambhavat swapna pralapavad vyavahara siddhau api pramanyam nopadyate iti tanmata matam avedika visheshayati. So now he goes one more step, that those who think that the Vedas are Purusha Jnana Kalpita, because in Advaitavad philosophy, Jiva is nothing but Brahman, which is having the upadhi of avidya, and it is Jiva only who has the Vedic knowledge, because Brahman does not have Vedic knowledge. So Jiva itself is a kalpana of avidya, and so is Vedas. So therefore Veda cannot be called a Purushaya, because it is Purushaya only. So if it is Purushaya, then it is also having the defects of the Purusha. Brahm Pramad Vipralapsa Karna Pata. And if it is having all these doshas in it, then it cannot be Pramana. Then it is Swapna Pralapad Vyavahara, then it is just like talking in your dream, because dream is an imagination. So like that, Veda is also imagination. Then it is not a Pramana. So therefore those who think like this, their philosophy is Avedic Vishesha. It is a type of atheism only. So Mayavadam Ashat Sastram Prachannam Bodham Uchyate Maya eva Vihita Devi Kalau Brahmana Rupina. So this is what Sri Sampradaya and also Madhva Sampradaya, they make very clear statement about Advaitvadis, that they are Prachan Bodhas. So in this he refutes the idea. So earlier he quoted Vachaspati Mishra to show that Veda is Nitya, that they accept that Shabda is superior Pramana. But then now he refutes their idea of Veda, that it is only at avidya stage, and proves that Veda is transcendental. So now on this some Purvapaksha comes. So if it is clear till now, we move further. So here comes a Purvapaksha.
Babaji,
Yes.
can I ask one question about the beginning of this paragraph? This word, samvyavaharikam. So it seems like what he's trying to say with this word is that the theories about language that he's talked about, they apply to all levels of reality, so they're both in Prakriti and in Vaikuntha. Is that kind of the force of this word, that he's trying to say this is true at every type of reality?
Well, this Samvyavaharika is the word which he used earlier, if you remember. Remember that a Purvapaksha was raised on Shabda Pramana, and he said that Shabda Pramana, you are saying it overrides Prataksha, right?
Yeah.
But then he said that Shabda Pramana is dependent on Prataksha because you have to hear it,
Yeah.
right? So that hearing of the Shabda Shabda means the Veda. That's what he called as samvyavaharik. He says that is just a normal empirical hearing, and that does not change the meaning of the Shabda. So that's what he's saying, that atra samvyavaharik. Atra means in this regard, where he has used the word samvyavaharik. He's referring to that. If you go earlier, then he says this atattvik pramana bhavebhyo api nahi agam jnanam samvyavarikam pratakshasya pramanyam uphanti yena karana bhavat na bhavet apitu tattvikam. Remember that?
Yeah.
So that samvyavariks, the word samvyavarik which he used there, and then he used again samvyavarikebhya pramanebhya tattva jnana utpatti darshanat. So now he is explaining that this samvyavaharik here means vyavaharik. Sarvatrikam eva vyavaharikam. That's what he is referring to.
Okay.
So that
Thank
is
you.
that is not related to what we have been studying now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, this statement here of the Sri Vaishnavas is saying that the view of Vachaspati Mishra about the Vedas being Apurusheya is different than their view of the meaning of Apurusheya.
Yes. He is actually showing that the way they accept Veda, it is not a Purusheya. Because how it can be a Purusheya if it is an imagination of a Purusha? It's a product of Purusha. So how is it a Purusheya?
And essentially because they call it a Purusheya, but they don't really accept it as a Purusheya as Vaishnavas see that,
Yes.
is calling their view a Vaidika. We're not really truly accepting the authority of Veda.
Yes. So now an interesting Purvapaksha is raised on this. And this is what I think the modern scholars, Western Indologists, they say this also. And on the basis of this, they never believe that Veda is anything special. It's a very strong Purvapaksha. And this, of course, has been made by our people themselves and has been answered by them, but they don't accept. So, nanu arvak jan samvadadi darshanat katham tasya anaditvani. So he says that in the Vedas there is a dialogue between people who are modern people. Modern means who are born in this creation. Like you hear there is a dialogue between Uddalak and Svetketu. There is a dialogue between Yagyavalkya and King Janaka. So these are Arvak, these names are there. So how this Veda can be Anadi then or eternal? Because these people were born part of the creation. After creation happened, then only they were born and their names are mentioned. So if it is eternal, how the names of people who are born later on can be inside the Vedas? So in the Upanishad there are so many dialogues and the names of so many kings. Pratardan, King Pratardan is there. And this Uddalak is there, Svetketu is there, Yagyavalka, Janaka, Gargi, Maitreyi. So all these names are there and many others, so many names are mentioned. Dalbhe, Baka. So these are people who have lived, they are historical people. So how can they be part of the Vedas whom you call as Nitya or Anadi? So Nanu Arvak Jan Samvad Adi Darshanat. So Arvak means later, modern, after the creation. So it is seen that there is a dialogue of people who were born later on. So Katham Tasya Anaditvadi. So how then Veda be considered as an Adi? So this is discussed in Brahma Sutra also. This point has been raised. This is also in Purvamimamsa, because both Vedanta Sutra and Jaimini Sutra, Mimamsa Sutra, they are based on Vedas, they deal with Vedas. So they have to deal with it, because they are accepting Veda as Pramana and Veda as an authority and Veda as a Parushaya. So if it is a Parushaya, then how is that these names are there? If they are there in the Puranas, that is understandable. If they are written by Vyasa and he is telling stories, but how can they be in Shruti, which is supposed to be Nitya? So he says that it is replied as follows. So Atevacha Nityatvam. So this is a Vedanta Sutra. Of course you have to read the whole thing. Here is not right. To really understand, you have to go back and read the previous sutra. So there is a sutra before that, and then after this it says Atevacha Nityatvam. Therefore the Veda is Nitya. So Ityatra Sutre Shankar Sharirak Bhashya Pramanitayam Shrutau Shruyate. So he says that while commenting on this sutra, Shankaracharya has cited a mantra from Rig Veda, which is given here. Rig Samhita, 10th Mandal, 7th Sukta, 3rd mantra. And the mantra says as follows: Yagyena vacha padvi yamayan tamanva vinda nrishishu pravishtam. So the meaning is that Yagyena vacha padvi yamayan, that by their previous good deeds through the yagya, which manifested as yagya, then they attained, padvi means qualification, yamayan means they attained the qualification to receive the sound of the Vedas. And this Vedas entered into the rishis, rishishu pravishtam, and then other people got from them. So he says that the names which are mentioned in this, they are the names because Veda enters into them and manifests through them, and those who are qualified, they receive it. And then they will say, but then these people appeared only this. He says they appear all the time. People with those names appear again and again. So in the previous cycle also there were Janak Rishi and there was Yagyavalkya. Different Atmas but having those names. It's like there is Brahma and there is Indra. But different person becomes Brahma, different person becomes Indra. And then story repeats. Modern people also say history repeats itself. Right? So here also it repeats. Now you are sitting and listening. Again, somebody will sit and listen.
Babaji, I had a question on this. These names are in the material world, or are they of devotees? Because if they are in the material world, then they are in the Mike Sansara. And so then the Vedas seem to be having some relationship with Maya. If these names are
Traigunya Vishya Veda. You know this sloka from Bhagavad Gita?
Yes.
What does it say?
This Traigunya Bhavarjuna Nirdvandva Nitya Sattvastha Niryoga Kshema Matma.
So the Vedas are Traigunya. Traigunya is Maya. If they were not Traigunya, then what was the point of giving them to us? Who are Traigunya, we won't understand anything. Vedas are speaking about the world, right?
Yes, I take my objection back.
So they are meant to give knowledge about us, about the world, about creation. Same knowledge which is given in the Puranas is given in the Vedas, just in a different way. Yes, what is your question?
Sorry, just following that then. My mind got captured by what you were saying just now. Can I ask something about that also?
Yeah.
If it's
I don't even know what else you are asking.
This Traigunya Vishaya Veda, then is that saying that the Vedas themselves in their constitution are part of the three gunas, or that they describe, or they have...
They're Vishaya.
Yeah.
So he's only talking about the Vishaya. What is Veda anyway? What is Veda? It has its Vishaya. Veda is knowledge, right? And knowledge has a Vishaya, content.
Yeah.
So that content is material.
Okay. I mean, but wouldn't we also say that if these Vedas are the direct dictation of the Lord, or they're part of this fundamental causation of the world, that they have some element in their constitution that's also not part of the three gunas?
Yeah, of course. Vedascha sarvera hameva vedya. So that is also Vishaya of Veda. Right? So that is non-material. So it has both parts in it. It's like God has two types of energies, material and spiritual. Right? So Veda also has two parts, material and spiritual.
Okay, and then my other question was about these...
There's Karam Kanda and Jnana Kanda. So therefore there's Purvamimamsa, there's Vedanta. So there are Upanishads, and then before that all Samhitas and Brahmanas.
And also here, by saying that the Vedas enter into these rishis, but that the particular Atmas who have these names or who play these roles in the different manifestations are different, then I don't know if it's possible to say, but is it just that somehow the anadi karma of many of these Atmas turns out to follow this identical track of what's described? For example, like you told us the story about Yajnavalkya going to that meeting and then standing up and taking all the
cows,
and these sort of events. I mean, is it literally to that extent that?
Well, this is what we had discussed earlier. Was it in the class? Or somebody asking privately that, I think you were asking that God is Sarvagya, omniscient. So does he know everything? Then if he knows everything, then everything becomes deterministic. Right? Because if he knows, then that means it's going to happen like that. So then just going on in a deterministic way. But then we also say it is not deterministic. So it is something like that. It's a mixture. So if Veda says it is written, then it has to be like this only. If God wants to know about some living being, what will happen, then it will become like that.
So it is, so literally it is like that.
Yes, that's why Western scholars don't believe this. He says, now you're stretching it too much just to prove your point. Right? I mean, any unbiased thinker will think like that. It's only the traditional people who have faith in Veda, they will believe like this, but an outsider, he will think this is some childish explanation. But the problem is that there are statements in the Veda itself like that. And he's going to cite some of them also in Mahabharata and Manusmriti. There are statements like that. So either they already made it up like this to make sure that you have this doubt, then we have already the answer for that. Or it's a fact that they are eternal and things do happen in that way. Which also we know that things are repetitive. That's why it is called samsara. Samsara have many meanings, but one of the meanings goes in cycles. And we know that things in this material world do go in cycles. Birth, youth, death, day, night, seasons. And at the level of atoms, things going in cycles, planets, galaxies. So the things are repetitive. And it's a game of three gunas. So they mix up in so many ways, and one mixture is like this, which happens repetitively. So that's how what we say, take it or leave it.
Babaji?
Yes.
Could I make a more broad Purva Paksha that you will hopefully refute?
Yes.
One of the accusations against Jiva Goswami that I've encountered in academia, but in academia from Western scholars and also Indian scholars, some pundits of the Madhva tradition, just people who know Indian philosophy more broadly, is that Jiva Goswami doesn't really offer any kind of unique perspective, that he's basically just rehashing, and he's not really a unique thing. I mean, this is what people have said to my work about Jiva.
Okay, tell me which scholar has shown that Krishna is Swam Bhagavan?
Well, could we talk about this?
No, just you're just saying it broadly that he's rehashing. So tell me.
I'm not saying.
Yeah. I mean, when you say means the Purva Pakshis.
Yeah.
Obviously not you. So
they would say, Ramanuja basically tried to establish Vishnu.
Yeah, but who has established Krishna as Swam Bhagavan?
But the techniques he used and the style of...
Okay, that is okay. Everybody uses. So what is new about Ramanujacharya? Before that... Nimbarka
worked, some people say Nimbarka is really, really old.
It may be old, but what is new thing that he is saying?
Nimbarka? That's Krishna's Swayam Bhagavan.
No, he doesn't say that. Where does he say that?
I don't know.
No, if you don't know why he is saying it. There's nobody Who has said that prema is the fifth prayojana beyond moksha?
It's not my question. It's not my question. My question
No,
is...
I'm answering to that because you're saying you can refute. I'm refuting it. How do you say that he is rehashing it?
Okay, so he establishes Krishna as Swayam Bhagavan.
Who has said that Bhagavatam is supreme pramana?
Okay.
Nobody. Madhva, Ramanujacharya does not even touch Bhagavatam, Nimbarka. Anybody, tell me who says that Bhagavatam is supreme pramana, except for Jiva Goswami. No. He
doesn't he take it as the fourth? Doesn't he say that the...
Yeah, but he doesn't say that this is the supreme pramana. He also wrote commentary on Vedanta Sutra. He also wrote commentary on Bhagavad Gita. Jiva Goswami didn't write commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Jiva Goswami says this is a commentary of Vedanta Sutra. Who else has said it? Nobody.
Okay, so Swayam Bhagavan, Bhagavat is...
Pramana, supreme pramana. And prema is the fifth prayojana beyond moksha. And varnasrama is not needed for bhakti. You tell this to Ramanujacharya, they will jump out of their skin.
Okay.
Tell this to Madhvacharya, they will break your head. So these are revolutionary ideas. You are only saying, okay. If you say one thing, you are unique. He has said so many unique things. I can list so many other things. Who has said that Radha is superior to... Madhva people say Brahma is the best devotee. Who has said that gopis are supreme pramana? Anybody has said that? No. Not Sri Sampradaya, not Madhva Sampradaya. Nimbark, you can say, yes, Nimbark says, but then they also say that it is Rukmani. They are Swakiyavadis. Who talks about Parkiyavad? Who has established bhakti as rasa? Nobody. These are revolutionary ideas.
Mentions it.
Sridhar
mentions it briefly in...
So why Ramanuja does not mention? Now you are going to Sridhar. Sridhar does not even accept that Krishna is Swam Bhagavan. He says Satyanarayana eva. Read his commentary on Krishna's tu Swam Bhagavan. Bhagavan Swam. He writes it Narayana eva.
Okay. What about his theory of language? So far, even this reply to this Purvapaksha just...
Yeah, so what is the problem? What if some people other people are saying, then we have no objection to that and we accept that. But you are talking about rehashing. Yes, these everybody accepts. You go to Ramanujacharya, he also says these things, and Madhva also says, Nimbarka also says. So how they are unique? Anybody who is writing commentary on Vedanta Sutra speaks in this way. Everybody follows Shankaracharya. If you read Ramanujacharya's commentary, it is only first 4 sutras, that is, he writes. Most of the sutra he says the same thing which Shankaracharya says. There is no difference. Because there is no need to say anything different. But the problem is that these people are unable to digest what Jiva Goswami is saying, therefore they say like that. Madhva people cannot digest Jiva Goswami. If they want to refute. It's just a statement, or he's only rehashing. Have they read Sandarbhas? And then tell me what is that he is rehashing. And what is that he is taken from Madhvacharya. He is giving him respect, but how many times does he really refer to Madhvacharya in his Sandarbhas? Hardly anything. Madhvacharya accepts 3 types of jivas. Does Jiva Goswami accept that? So where is the rehashing in that? According to Jiva Goswami, jiva is only of one type. And it is only at the bodily level, conditioning, that what makes the difference. There is no sattvic jivas and rajasic and tamasic atmas, as Madhva said. So where is the rehashing? Jiva Goswami does not accept the Vishesha. He says it is achintya. Who else has said achintya bheda bhed? Tell me. Nobody. And this is not the same bheda bhed as of Bhaskara. Nimbarka is Swabhavik, but he doesn't accept that all. There is much difference between Swabhavik and Achintya.
Babaji, I also think that Jiva Goswami is unique in his treatment of Brahman, Bhagavan and Paramatma.
Yeah, there I'm saying there's so many unique things he says. Of course, everybody is using the same base literature, so there are going to be so many things which are common. Everybody uses Puranas, everybody uses Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad. So there's common, and of course, people quote from each other. What is the problem with that? Who does not take knowledge from the previous people? You think Ramanujacharya did not study Shankaracharya? Of course he studied. You think Madhvacharya did not study? They all study. And what is not acceptable, they refute. What is acceptable, they accept. Even Buddhist people, everybody reads them. And so many things Shankaracharya has taken from Buddhism. Sometimes, I don't have the collection, but I can show you that he repeats verbatim what Nagarjuna has said. This is normal. You write a paper, you also take from previous people who have written paper. Everybody copies Vyasa. Vyasa Chistam Jagat Sarvam. Simple. He is the hallmark, he is the source for everyone. He is the original person. East or west, everybody is copy from Vyasa. Nobody says anything new. But what you accept and what you reject, that's how it makes the difference. So Jiva Goswami has done the unique analysis which nobody has done. He says, I'm going to analyze Vyasa's Samadhi. Tell me who has done that. And I will take out the Siddhanta from that, and then from that I will show that this is the thing what is being prescribed. And anyone who agrees with it, I accept. Anyone who does not agree with it, I reject, including Sridhar Swami. Very clear. So he is basing his whole philosophy on these 4 slokas describing Bhakti Yogena Manasi Samyat Pranahite Mule Apashyat Purusham Purnam Mayam Chatadapashnam Yasam Mohito Jiva. So these are the slokas. He analyzes them, he brings out his core philosophy from that, and then he expands and he shows that this is what Bhagavatam is about. And then he expands and he shows the whole Vedic literature is this. This is not rehashing. Of course, to show that, then he gives pramana from others. He says, my pramana is Bhagavatam, and when I am quoting others, that is not to prove my point or this, but to support what Bhagavatam or to clarify. It's very clear. He gives his methodology in Tattva Sandarbha. But people don't study. Because Gaudiya Vaishnavas themselves don't study Sandarbhas. They don't understand how the other Sampradaya will understand it. It is not that you know Sanskrit and you read and you will understand it. See how difficult it is here reading this. Okay? Yeah. Wait, Janki Ram.
I appreciate what you're saying, that there are things that distinguish him in terms of Swayam Bhagavan, Varnashma Dharma, Bhagavat Pramana, the Jiva, Achintya, Vyasa, Samadhi. These are all his unique contributions.
And
Maybe we're gonna
and Gokul Vrindavan beyond Vaikuntha,
get beyond Vaikuntha.
and Krishna source of Narayana, not other way around. And 3 divisions of Krishna, who has made that?
Yeah.
Vrindavan Krishna, Mathura Krishna, Dwarka Krishna, Madhurya Bhav, Aishwarya Bhav. It's not there in other sampradaya. Vedi Bhakti, Radhanuga Bhakti, these are all very distinct things,
I agree. Maybe we're going to get there, but do you think there's anything that distinguishes him in terms of his theory of language, his concept of language?
I don't think so. I don't see any reason why he should distinguish in that.
Okay.
That's standard and everybody accepts. Mukhya vritti, Lakshana vritti, Vyanjana vritti. Yes, I think everybody is common on that.
Thank you, Babaji.
But there are differences, just like Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya accepts that Shabda can give you Sakshatkar, and Ramanujacharya does not accept that.
Thank you, Babaji.
How is Sandeep?
Yes, Babaji Maharaj, something I just not able to reconcile in my mind, in the sense that Vedas are having like all kind of subjects, and we can divide it into 2 parts, like material and spiritual aspect of it. Krishna also has material energy and spiritual energy, Antaranga, Bahiranga Shakti, Tatastha Shakti also. And then in the Sandarbhas we studied that ultimately it is Antaranga Shakti which is there. And this others, whatever different energies are there, then that is just coming from Antaranga Shakti. How do I reconcile these 2 things, that in everything there is two or more divisions, but then we finally say it's Antaranga?
So what is the what is the problem?
Problem is that if it is just one, then why we are saying 2 or 3?
It's like you have one body, right?
Yes,
How many parts you have in it?
many.
So if I explain that it has so many parts, you have your head, you have your legs, you have feet, you have cells, you have various types of neurons. So now he said, how do I reconcile it? He said it's only one.
Okay, so it is something like this, to understand that everything is ultimately Antaranga Shakti. So we can say that ultimately it is there, but then it has various parts to it.
Yeah, it is not ultimately Antaranga. I don't know why you are saying ultimately Antaranga. Ultimately it is Krishna only who has all these Shaktis. And Shaktis are 3 different Shaktis. Why ultimately Antaranga? Okay, now he says Yugante antarhitan vedan setihashan maharshayah lebhire tapsa purvam anugyata swambhuva. So this is a quotation from Mahabharata Shanti Parva 2:1:10:19. So one of the objection which is also raised is that some of the things are said that this this Veda was spoken by this sage and this part was spoken by this sage. Just like we have Yajurveda, 2 divisions, Krishna Yajurveda, Shukla Yajurveda, right? So one appeared to sage who was that? Who was that? Yagyavalkya or Vaishampayana, who has to vomit it, one part which became Tatriya, and then he, Yagyavalkya, right? And then he did worship of sun god, and then he got Veda. So here he says that God means it was just revealed to them, not that they are the creator of it. So when Rishi, they are called Rishi. So Rishi means he is a mantrasya drashtara natu kartara. Rishio mantrasya drashtara or mantranam drashtara natu kartara. And they are the one who saw the mantra, or mantra was revealed to them, not that they created the mantra. So sometimes Nama Rishibhyo Mantra Kritbhya, it is spoken like that they are called Mantra Krit. So their Mantra Krit means Mantra Drashta. So therefore he says Yugante Antarhitan Vedan Se Tihasam Maharshaya Lebhire Tapsa Purvam Anugyata Swambhuva. That at the end of Yuga, which means the previous cycle of creation, the Vedas, they became unmanifest, Antarhitan Vedan, along with Itihas, Purana, etc. So then Maharshaya Tapsa Lebhire, then the sages, they received them by austerity, Purvam Anugyata Swambhuva, which were not known earlier, and then they became available to them. So Anugyata Swambhuva means also Brahma here. Brahma is called Swambhu. Anugya means one who gets the first knowledge is called Anugya. So they were received by Brahma. So Brahma receives, then they also received by some of the other sages, as in case of Yagyavalkya. So Brahma gives Vedas to various sages. Sometimes sages also get some special revelation, because Veda is unlimited. So if it is said sometimes Tatriya Upanishad or some other Upanishad, not Cain, but Katha Upanishad. So Katha is the name of a sage. So then we say Katha Prokta iti Katha. Katha who spoke it. So spoke does not mean that he made it, but he received it and then he spoke. So therefore these names, when they are found, that does not mean that they are the creator of them. That's why he says that Maharshaya Tapsa Lebhire Purva Anugyata Swambhu. Tasmat Nitya Siddhasya eva Veda Sabdasya Tatra Pravesha eva Natu Tattat Kartrikta. So therefore it is Veda which is Nitya Siddha. Nitya Siddha means eternally existing. Just like it is said, Nitya Siddhasya Bhavasya Prakatyam Hridi Sadhyata. As Rupa Goswami says that manifestation of bhakti in the heart is called Sadhya. Sadhya here does not mean that you create it, but it becomes manifest in the heart, otherwise it is Nitya Siddha. So similarly, just as Bhakti or Krishna Prema is Nitya Siddha, Krishna Prema Nitya Siddha Sadhya ka guna hai. Shravanadi Suddha Chitte Karaya Udaya. So it becomes Udaya, manifest, like sun rises in the east. So it's not that it is created there, but it becomes visible from the east to us. It becomes manifest to our eyes in the east. Similarly, Bhakti, Vedas, Krishna, they are all Nitya Siddha. And just like Krishna is called son of Nanda Maharaj or son of Vasudeva, Devaki, so does it mean that he is actually their son in the sense like we know? No, it is not like that. He is a Nitya Siddha. He says, Pitaham Jagata, Pitaham Asya Jagata, Mata Dhata Pitama. I am the father, mother, grandfather of the whole universe. So is he the father or Vasudeva is the father? So Matta Sarvam Pravartate, Aham Sarvasya Prabha. Right? I am the source of everybody. So if he is the source of everybody, then he is source of Vasudeva also, but then he is born from Vasudeva. So he manifests from him. So Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Savnitam Tatra Iyate Puman Apavritah. So Tatra Iyate Puman Apavritah. The Puman or person becomes manifest in that. So when something is right, the suitable place, then becomes manifest. The Vedas also become manifest in the same way as Krishna becomes manifest or Bhakti becomes manifest. So although when we think of Bhakti, we think of something as impersonal, like some energy. Similarly, when we think of Veda, we think of Veda as a book. But they are also spiritual beings and they manifest to a suitable person. As Bhakti manifests to a qualified person, Vedas manifest to some sages when they are qualified, as Krishna manifests to qualified parents. So when that qualification is there, then these objects become manifest. So that's what says that it is eternal. So this is the traditional view. Of course, modern people don't accept this.
Babaji, question is there in this sloka. It says this Leviret tapsa purvam anugyataha swayambhuva. Anugyata goes with swayambhuva or with maharshaya?
Swambhava.
And all swayambhuva refers to Brahma. Different Brahmas.
Yeah, Brahma only. Swambhu is Brahma. Is the Tritiya of Swambhu.
Okay. So Purvam is a Visheshan for Levire then.
Yeah, you can apply this to Brahma. That in the beginning he gave the knowledge.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
Well, yeah, I have a small question on trying to understand the Veda is Nitya Siddha. So I have heard in the Advaita Vedanta sadhana that they do this dhyana and so on, and they hear something called anahata nada, some various kinds of sounds and nada and so on. One of them is Om or something. So my question is it also possible for people to hear the Vedas being like just by doing this dhyan like mentioned in the Yoga Sutra, or is it like Krishna has to come and actually, or somebody has to come and actually give them the Veda for them to hear the Veda, or is it just floating around and one tunes in like a radio? Or
Yeah, both are possible. They can also be heard. That's why they're called Shruti. So as Brahma, as we are reading in Bhagavatam, that Brahma heard the message from Vishnu. So like that you can also hear the Vedic sound. Anything else?
Babaji, prior to Jiva Goswami's establishing Krishna as Swayam Bhagwan, can it be said that knowledge of Bhakti and Krishna's supremacy was not widely known?
It is not widely known even now. In India, most people don't accept Krishna as Swayam Bhagwan. They accept him as Vishnu Avatar. It's only Gaudiya Vaishnavas who are just a minority. So it's still same. Okay.
Thank you.